Hello, hello, and welcome back, or welcome to Into the Nothing with your favorite host, Patrice. This episode today is with my friend and one of my favorite content creators on Facebook, Shauna. Welcome, Shauna, to Into the Nothing.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
The reason I've got Shauna on today, and I was just, of course, as I say all the time, and as you know, with every podcast, you have chats before the record button is hit and is pressed. And I was saying to Shauna, I'm like, this podcast is built on me being excited to speak to someone. Like that is the strategy. I keep getting a little taps in my mind of that person, that person. And Shauna's been on my mind for a while because I have watched Shauna over the last 4 or 5 years online, and I have met you in person.
Yeah.
Transform your life. Choose a different relationship, choose a different career, choose a different location to live. And underneath all of that, what I have seen you do is choose yourself and what you really want for you, first and
Mm.
foremost. And of course, then, your family and your relationship. And I know that so many women are in a position right now in a job, whether they want to leave that job and get a new job or work for themselves or start a new relationship because the one they're in isn't fucking it anymore. And so I thought you'd be a fantastic person to talk to, Shauna, because you're so real, you're so funny. Like I really do recommend anyone who's listening to this to follow Shauna on Facebook because you're so funny and your content with your kids is so real and the word is such a buzzword, but you are authentic. It's so enjoyable to watch you.
Yeah.
And so I thought it would be a great conversation to have because in real time you're making changes to choose yourself and better your life. And so before we really jump in to all things Shauna and change and transformation and how we do that, please, if you have any moment throughout this conversation where you're getting that nudge, that pull to share it with a girlfriend, with a colleague, with a family member, with your mum, with your sister, don't hesitate. Share in that moment. Please get this conversation out and please subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and like. Really appreciate it. And feel free to ask Shauna and I any questions on social media too. So Shauna, how did you start to change and what sort of thoughts were you thinking to go, whoa, I want to live a different life in all areas of my life?
So I think one thing to note is that all the areas of my life, and until you sort of introduced me just now, I didn't realize. I was like, oh my God, I really have changed jobs, changed towns, changed relationship. I changed like everything. I was like, wow, I'm really glad I didn't do that all at once. Because like how would I have ever done that? So this has definitely been a journey over 5 or 6 years, which is still a pretty short time frame when you think about it. So it's a beautiful journey, and it's definitely been an unfolding. So one thing to note is if you're a woman who's listening and you know that there's a feeling of the change is in the air around you, then just know that it gets to be one step at a time. So as much as I've changed every aspect of my life in the last few years, it is one step at a time. And that's how I've done it, is only allowing myself to look at what's in front of me right now. What can I do for this next step? And not allowing myself to get over, because it's so overwhelming. If you look at the big picture, it is just too much. You will never do anything. And if you're anything like me, a little bit avoidant, I'll just sit there and go, well, that's really big. I'll do nothing instead. Like, it doesn't make sense, but that's how my brain works. So for me, I got through some of the biggest moments in my life was using that strategy of I only need to know the next step. And when I've actioned that and done that, then I move on to look at, okay, now where to from here? And it's gives you so much more energy and capacity to be able to really hold that one next step and look at it from a really clear mind and almost execute it in the best way possible, because all of your energy is towards that one thing for that one next step. So in particular, what I'm talking about is when I chose to leave my marriage. That is too big to look at the whole big picture. How do I untangle 18 years of marriage with someone? How do I untangle our lives that are very much like a ball of wool? Everything about me is entangled with that man. We've got 3 children together. Our finances, our business, our home, everything we own is together. We were 21 when we met, started with nothing, built it all together. How do you even attempt to start to pull the string out of that ball of wool? And the only way I got through it was one thing at a time. So it went with, okay, great. I've made the decision that I want to leave. So the first step is telling him that. Great, had that conversation. Okay, great, I've done that. Tick. Now what's the next step? Cool, tell the children. And that wasn't in the same day. We waited a week and made sure that it was great timing for the kids. And then I told the kids that mum and dad were separating. That was a big one. So I've got to really take my time and be fully present in all of that, be there for my children and all of their emotions in that, and make sure that it was done really well, because I chose to be in a place where I only looked at that one next step to make sure that I wasn't feeling super overwhelmed and emotional. Because if I look at the big picture of, I don't know how I'm going to support myself financially, emotionally, how am I going to raise these kids when I've got work that takes me away from home? Like, if I was to think with all of that, I would never have left. And I know that there are so many women listening that can really resonate with that, because if you look at the big picture, and we're going to get a little bit deep here because I actually don't know any other way than just to share openly and vulnerably. I guess that's that authenticity piece you speak about. I don't even have to try to be like that. It is who I am. I've been like that my whole life. So for me, I know leaving my marriage was one of those big milestone moments, like it is for a lot of women. And it was a huge piece in the last 4 years of my marriage. I spent trying to revive it and give it CPR. And I had blinders on and blinkers on. Commitment, staying, working on this. This is what marriage is. And I love commitment. Fuck, I am the best at commitment. Like, I don't know when to stop, actually. That's my actual problem. When to let go is actually the lesson for me in this life. So commitment is great. I love it. I was so committed, 4 years in, reading every book I could about relationships, spending tens of thousands of dollars on coaches and relationship and intimacy coaches. And at the end of the day, in hindsight, I was working with, it was a two-party game and I was the only one playing. So it doesn't work when it's like that. You need two people to be on board. So for me, I got to this place where it was like, how do I leave? It's too hard. It's too big. There's a whole life entangled. I don't even know who I am if I'm not married. Who is that woman? And for me, it was this huge piece around having a moment where I sat and I realized and caught my thought, which was, it would just be so easy if he just evaporated into thin air and left or went away. And then I realized, I was like, oh my God, am I having thoughts about if he just died, it would be so much easier than the path I know is ahead of me. That was a really pivotal moment for me to be like, fuck, I'm in a really, really dangerous mindset right now. Not that there was never any plans to knock my husband off, but it was like, man, I'm that desperate that death is the only option. That's where I was at. And I was like, that is I'm a mindset coach. I know enough to know that that is a really dangerous territory to be in. So getting set on having the first step sorted and that strategy of just doing one thing at a time was when that started for me, because I was like, cool, this is not where I want to be anymore. And I can honestly leave with a very clear cut, because I know that I've done everything I can and tried everything, exhausted everything I can to make it work, and to I spent 2 years just working on me. Okay, it's not about him, just do my own journey, focus on you, Shauna, he'll come along. And then I spent 2 years, okay, it's all about him. He needs to change. You need therapy. Let's go. Come along with me. I'm dragging this man who didn't have the same journey as me. And we'd met when we were 21. I was 40 at that point. I was a very different person. And it's a beautiful thing when I think about relationships that last through the decades. You see these elderly people that have been together for 60 years. And my God, there is some respect for that, because the growth that had to happen almost in synchronicity is my belief in that. It's like long-term relationships happen when people grow together. And to do that, you need two people who are willing to grow. So making sure that you put yourself in situations where you're with people who are interested in changing and evolving and being the best versions of themselves, so that you can come together in union where it is so dynamic. And even if sometimes someone's growing and then takes a little bit, this person's still where they were, eventually they do their own growing, and it doesn't always have to be at the same time, but willingness is a huge part of that.
It's such a big learning for me in my 30s about relationships, and that they are, some of them are for seasons and for chapters.
Yeah.
And that's a huge season for you and a huge, huge chapter of your life, being father of your children and with him for so long. And I've learned probably in a smaller way, some friendships have been for 2 years or 3 years, which I never really had in my 20s. Maybe I was people pleasing and going along with the crowd. And then in my 30s, I know myself a bit more and realizing that not everyone is for me and I'm not for everyone. But that is on such a bigger scale of that chapter of your life. And like you said, so many women go through this. And I'm sure there are women listening to this right now going, I'm in a relationship that really doesn't feel like we're on the same page, and I'm really trying to make it work. And so, did you have anyone that you were going to chat to about this to help you so you felt less alone, or how did
Yeah. So
you had to
what's
get people
really,
around you?
yeah, what is super interesting with how I did it was that I describe myself as an external processor and an extrovert. So everything I do, like that's where the authenticity comes in place as well. Like everything I think comes out my mouth. I don't process it up in my head. I process it as I hear it coming out of my mouth. So I share everything. I'm an open book. It's just the way that I roll. But in this time of my life, something really strange happened where I I there was a lot of hits and downloads of which path to take and how to go ahead with this. And I knew that I needed to do it differently to how I've done everything else. And one thing that I did was actually I told no one. So, and it was so weird for me, Patty. Like I share everything. Like it was weird for me not to even tell the whole of Facebook that I was leaving my husband before I told him. Like that's how much I share, right? It was a really strange but very centered and grounded and extremely strong place to come from because I had no one else's opinions, no one else's advice, no one else's projections on my actions and my movements. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that what I was feeling and thinking was mine because I hadn't whispered that out loud to a single person before. So it was a really clear head frame to come from, and that served me really well.
And that's interesting because in the world of coaching, and where you and I are both coaches, and it's interesting when you look at patterns. So, what is the pattern that I usually roll out in my life? And for you, it was talking all the time about everything, and that's my way of moving through life. But realizing, okay, this situation with the separation with my husband, I'm becoming a different woman. I need to take different actions. And for me, instead of doing my usual pattern, I'm going to do the opposite. And it's going
Exactly.
to create a different result, which I think is if someone is listening right now and they're like, wow, well, I'm usually really quiet and introverted and I never share anything.
Yes.
Maybe there could be a part of your life where it's like, okay, if I want a different result here and I'm stepping into this new version of myself because I want a new chapter, I want new results, it might be asking you to do the opposite of what you usually do to play in the range of that. So it might be to go and tell your mum or tell your sister or tell a mentor or a therapist or
Yeah.
whatever that is and actually share.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, like in the past, I'd had that habit of sharing so much and opening myself up for advice and feedback and coaching, and not always from people who were in the arena with me. So it had the opportunity to get really cloudy up in my head of like, what is my own beliefs and thoughts? Am I taking on my sister's because of her own past and her experiences and how she's jaded from her divorce? Like I don't want to bring anything in on my decision right now. So for me, it's a really great way to put it. It was the exact opposite of how I would usually do things, and it felt really great. It
Very
really served me well.
empowering. It sounds very, very
Mm,
empowering. And so, Shauna, so with this huge change and huge choice that you're making in your life for yourself and for your kids and also for your partner too, like everyone, although it might not look like it in the moment and maybe for a few years in hindsight, I'm sure in 10 years' time, everyone looks back and will see the magic of this breakdown to break through.
yeah,
With your career, can you talk us through the process of changing your career and
yeah,
where did that fit in the kind of the timeline of you changing your
yeah.
choices with your relationship? Can you talk about the job you were in before and the choices and the career that you're in now?
Yes. So the marriage breakdown was probably my recent milestone event, and the changing of my job was actually probably my first. So I'm going to take you back a few years. And I know, Patty, when you and I met, I was still working in the corporate world and I was managing a team of people. I was climbing that ladder. I was, in my own eyes back then, winning at life. Like my kids were starting to get older. They were all in school now. And I had time for myself. I was, going to work 7 in the morning, getting home at 6 at night. I was dropping that mother role and earning more fulfillment in my life through job titles and pay raises and opportunities. And that was, for a little while, really fulfilling for me. And then I knew that I started to grow and change when I started to have desires for more in life. So when I say more, I mean it was like there was a neon sign in my forefront of my third eye all day long. It's like I looked through that big neon sign saying more through every experience of my life. I just needed more. So there was a yearning and a desire that was starting to build, and that's how it started for me. And then I started to notice in this corporate life I was in, the I chose to really love the whole polished hair and makeup and the like looking really like on through the mask that I would put on every morning through hair and makeup. And when I first started to notice the change for me, the first really great symbol of that was I went back to my natural curly hair. So rather than sleek and straight and maybe some polished curls, I was like, oh, I'm going wild and free. I'm going with my natural curls. And that was a really big sign for me because I'm like, before I'd always seen that as unprofessional. And now I was like, oh, I'm coming back to myself. Like this is actually who I am. And then I also went to the headquarters of the corporate business that I worked in, and it was in the middle of the city, and I was this small, not small country, I was from a big country town, I would describe it. And every now and then I'd go into the city to the headquarters and do some work from there. And I noticed that, the 2 years previous to that, I would walk through the city and I'd be like, yeah, I belong here. This is my place. I love this corporate life. And then I started to go and I was like, this is crap. These people they're all wearing black. They're all looking down. There is no one saying good morning, hello. There is no joy. There is no happiness. What a life. I don't fucking want that. Like, I want way more out of life than that corporate structure and, let's be frank, masculine role that I was in. So it really started to happen slowly for me. It was probably over about 4 years where I was like, oh, it's like an undoing of the mask that I'd put on through that corporate life. And through that 4 years, I started to get into spirituality as well, which is how I met you as well at a beautiful event that you did. So on my weekends, I would go to beautiful events like that and open myself up to spirituality and discovering what that more might be. And that's how I found coaching and NLP, which I'm in now. So through that corporate world, I did some training. So I took all my leave and I would book it in for the times that the trainings were on. So I'd take leave from my corporate job, go and do trainings in coaching so I could become a really epic coach. Used up all my sick leave. I was just like, yep, I'm doing this. I'm building something whilst having that security of an income as well, because hello, safety for my nervous system was really important. So they call it burning the boats, and that's when you decide, fuck it, I'm out of this job and I'm going out on my own. I'm going to create my own business. And the timing for burning the boats is really important. And I'd heard a lot about that in the development world. And I was like, heard about people burning the boats a mile out from shore and having to swim. And I'm like, that's not me. I'm going to build safety and security first. And let's be real, when is safety and security ever a real thing? Like, you have to actually create it inside yourself first. So I did that for 6 months where I was working, corporate life, mum of 3 children, and having my coaching business at night times and on weekends. And I had never felt more alive. I had never felt more lit up. I could have coached until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning if my clients would have a session then. I loved it. It was the more that I was looking for in life. And I was like, I found it. This is it, guys. I've never been happier. I am lit the fuck up. Amazing. And in the end, I was like, I want to do this full time. There is no doubt in my mind that the impact that my experience as a client had given me with my coach, I want to be that for somebody. Like, I had a really shitty childhood, like riddled with trauma. I spent my 20s completely riddled in my body, holding all that trauma. Finding coaching was the one thing that really landed for me to be able to heal that. I'd done all the talk therapy and things like that, and coaching was what did it. So I knew that there was other women like me, and I wanted to be able to spend my life serving them and serving humanity, in that I get to help women be free from childhood trauma. Yes, please. Yes, please. And surely the universe wants me to do that. Like, surely that's my purpose. That's adding value. I'll be supported in that. So after 6 months of building my business and working at the same time, I did decide to burn the boats. And at that time, it was a beautiful blessing in my marriage that my husband earned enough that when I look at it on paper, we will survive. There'll be no holidays, and the kids might be wearing Kmart shoes, not their $280 Nikes, and we'll get through. Worst case scenario, that's how we live, and I'm fine with that because it's a dream that I'm following through on. So in the end, it took me about 3 months, and I had already replaced my income from my corporate job. So it happened really quickly, and I was like, great, I can do this. I'm here. I'm doing it. And I'm really blessed to have these natural abilities in me. Like, I'm from a huge family. I've got 10 brothers and 2 sisters. So there's 13 of us.
I
And
did not know that. Oh my
I
God.
know, right?
Family
It's so,
gap.
I love it so much. Like, I've got 9 older brothers, 1 little brother, and 2 older sisters. So my upbringing was a very unique dynamic. It wasn't just imprints and programming from my mum and dad, it was also from my siblings, which I think maybe that's where the authenticity comes into it, because if anyone's got older brothers and sisters, they bring you back down to earth pretty quickly. And I had a lot of that, so it was great. And all throughout my family and all these 13 siblings, sorry, the 12 siblings and 13 of us, there is huge leadership qualities innately in all of us. And I look at my cousins and it's in our bloodline, like leadership and confidence is in our bloodline. So I was really blessed in that. That was a natural ability for me, and I was just using it to make money now, which was great. So it was using my natural abilities, getting some training to be able to know how to harness that, getting business coaching to be able to know how to actually run a business and do it well as well. Be able to know that, you've got to pay GST and you've got to pay taxes and I need a bookkeeper and all those things. So I got the training that I needed whilst I had that security of a salary, and then went out on my own, and within 3 months I'd nailed it. So that was really great. And I just kept growing. And in all of that, I'd also regained the balance in motherhood. So while I was in that corporate life, I'd completely lost. I was parenting my children through text messages. They'd all started high school by this age. They'd all got their own phone. They would message me after school and tell me about things that had gone on that they were upset about, or, the social life of teenage years can be really intense. And I was replying from my desk with text messages. And that's when I realized I did not have children for somebody else to raise them or for me to do it through a text message. Like when I was growing up as a little girl, if you asked me what I wanted to be, the only thing my whole entire life was I want to be a mum. Other friends would be like, I want to be a marine biologist, I want to be a vet, I want to be a teacher. I'm like, I want to be a mum. And I'd lost that. So releasing that 9 to 5 job, also a huge part of that was to regain the dream, my initial dream of being a mum and being fully present in that. So I definitely swung the pendulum a little bit too far when I first left my job. And I was like, right, I've gone from parenting from a text message. Now I'm going to be fully present. I'm going to be all up in their grill. Like I'm going to work at their tuck shop and I'm going to be part of the PNC and I'm going to know all their friends. And I had teenagers by this stage, and that is absolutely not how it went down at all. And they didn't really want to spend that much time with me, and they'd rather be with their friends. So I was like, well, cool, because I also left my job to have a business. So I guess I'll just focus on that. So I very quickly got to have the balance of mothering and learning that I get to go hard on my business in between school hours, and having a real commitment to myself and my family that in the afternoons when they come home, like I'm there every afternoon in the car to pick them up. They don't have to walk, because I spent the first 10 years of mothering with taking them to before school care or daycare or someone else taking them, and me never being there for that. Me never making afternoon tea for them after school and listening to their day and how things went. So I got to enjoy all those things that really fulfilled me, and they gained from that as well. So having the balance of that was a really big piece after I quit my job, which fulfilled me and made me really happy. It also was a huge mask for the pain that I was feeling in my relationship. So this was in 2022 that I released the 9 to 5 job, went hard in on the family life and the business, and I was finding all my fulfillment. So career fulfillment, because I built my own business from scratch. It was thriving. I know I'm a fucking great coach. I'm getting results. These women are telling me how great their life is. This is so great for me. I feel amazing. They feel amazing. I'm there to pick up my kids from school every day. I've nailed this work-life balance. Like, there are women in the corporate world that dream of the life that I've got for myself right now. Yay. And all of that was covering up huge hurt, disappointment, and lack in my marriage, and the huge desire I have for connection, which was just not being fulfilled with someone who's not on the same page. So yeah, so I did that for about 2 years and just almost pushed all that aside. And like I said, I had the blinkers on. Commitment, this is it long term, make it work. The option to leave was never a thought for me, ever, ever, ever. Like, it was always, okay, solution finding, what else can we do? Like, what's another way? I read every freaking book about relationship and intimacy that I could find. And it was, in the end, like I said, it's a 2-person game, but I was the only one playing.
I often think though, when you're going through so much change and in hindsight, you hadn't had the thought of I could leave,
Yeah.
but it was giving you in the meantime. And I know it's not the perfect thing to say, but it is my thought, because I've had it in my own life in areas where, although the relationship wasn't perfect, the other things were needing some nurturing, your career and also this new balance you were finding, this new relationship with your kids. And so that thing to also be falling apart in that time wouldn't have given potentially those other things a stability. And I know for some people it is about like, you can burn everything to the ground but I think there's a couple of years there where maybe for you were getting stability in these other areas to so that when that was time for that thing to separate and to change its form, that these other areas had stability.
Totally, yeah. So when I say I was unhappy in my marriage, it was very stable. Like I had a huge level of certainty in my marriage. There was certainty in the income, certainty of his support for me. So I guess I want to make it really clear that the picture that I'm painting is from the outside, it was the perfect relationship. It shocked all of our friends and family when I said I was leaving. So I had a huge level of certainty and stability, which you're right, absolutely allowed me to focus on those other areas and build them, which there's a lot of uncertainty when you sometimes there can be a lot of uncertainty when you choose to start your own business. So it was definitely a balancing act. And I guess unconsciously and through divine intervention, when those two areas of my life really started to hold that stability on their own, I was able to turn and look at the rest of my life. I also turned 40, which anyone who's listening who's turned 40, I heard about it, but it really does do something. It makes you just take stock of your life and go, okay, stereotypically, am I halfway through right now? Do I want the next half of my life to be like this? What would I do differently? What have I done really well? What do I want to take with me into this second half? It's like a halfway check-in. And when I checked in with myself, it was a fuck no, I don't want it to be like it has been. I want something way more and different for this. So hence the decision and the blinkers coming off. And when I say the blinkers coming off, I mean it wasn't a slow burn. It was a boom, like strike of lightning from divine guidance. This is over. You are done. We're done. It was, I guess, shocking for. I was great with it because it was so, I think unconsciously had been so present. And for him, he was just like, what the fuck's going on? I'm like, remember all those conversations that we had and talked about not being happy and how we can do more and what I need and what you need, and nothing, no recollection of any of those conversations at all. It was a huge shock for him. So it's a big thing. I guess I'm all over the place with this story, but
No.
it's a huge thing to recognize that if you're someone who's listening to this and this feels like your story in your marriage, I get a lot of women that, because I shared my separation all through Facebook, a lot of women have seen and know what I've gone through and they reach out. And the first thing that I bring to their mind is that, have you told him? Because a lot of times women will think, my God, I've said it, I've made it so obvious. How can you not tell? Are you serious? Like, how fucking hard is it to recognize that this isn't working? You need to recognize that men are extremely different when it comes to us. They are not wired the same. On a cellular and a DNA level, their focus is completely different to ours. So when I say, have you told him, it needs to be a very direct sentence of, I am thinking about leaving you. We have a problem. And I remember the moment that I had that conversation with my husband at the time. And because it was me following my own advice of, yeah, I need to make sure that he is aware of this and not just assume that, of course, he would feel the same as me. Very clear. Do you get it? I'm thinking about leaving. This is not good for us. We need help. Had that conversation. I remember where I was standing. I remember him being in the kitchen, what he was wearing. I remember the pantry door being open because it was annoying me because it was messy. I remember all of it. And then when I actually left, he was like, why didn't you just tell me? And I was like, oh, wow. Like, they really are completely oblivious. So when I say to you, have you told him? It's important to make sure that you have his focus when you have that conversation, because men are singular focused. So they can focus on one thing at a time. It is their superpower. They will get that one thing done. They do it a lot quicker than women would because we have 40 different things going on at one time, lots of tabs open, and we'll fluff about and do all 40 of them at once and get half of them finished. So men will focus on one thing. Make sure you are the one thing that he's focusing on when you want to have conversations like that. Really important to be his singular focus for that conversation. The one
And,
tip.
and I'm in a relation. I've just got engaged a couple of months ago, so I'm in a different kind of phase of my relationship than we're talking about right now. But it's still the case with communication between men and women in general. That understanding that we function so differently, and I love the just the little the visual in our minds of just say we're in the bedroom. and we want to go to the kitchen and get a glass of milk, on the way there as women, typically, generally, we are going to start to walk from the bedroom and we're going to notice the sock on the floor, we're going to pick that up. And then we're going to notice that there's a belt on the floor and we're going to pick that one up and probably go back to the cupboard and hang it up in his cupboard. And then we're going to continue, we're going to go into the lounge room and then we're going to notice that, oh my gosh, okay, the placemats aren't like stacked. And so we're going to do that. And then, so we'll do 20 things. And then we'll get to the kitchen at some point, we'll have a glass of milk. Whereas the man will walk from the bedroom when he has the thought that I want a glass of milk, and he'll find himself in the kitchen seconds later drinking
Yeah.
a glass of milk. And I think it's just that, like you said, it's that singular focus, it's that ability for men to get something done, but not see all the other things that we have the superpower of seeing, which can be to the balcony in the basement to that. There's a superpower in that, and there's also that we can get really distracted and not get stuff done that we need to get done.
Yeah.
So it's to your point, and to have I think this is a great conversation to have in general in any relationship that we have with men, typically to be clear and be direct, because as women we can have a million conversations in our head, make a decision about something and not understand why anyone else isn't on board with it, but we haven't directly, clearly said those simple words.
Yeah. Yeah. And men use less words than we do. Like they are more direct for the
Which
most
is
part.
so refreshing.
Oh, it is. It's great. And here's a fun fact for you. Believe it or not, men actually say what they mean. So there is no need for us to second guess or read between the lines. They are very direct, and what they say is what they mean. Take it for that. They're not women. Women will find 1,000 different ways to go around the point to not hurt your feelings, maybe, or something like that. Men will just say what they mean.
I think I remember a couple of years ago, I was like, probably when I met you, I was really into spirituality and just discovering the more, even on a greater scale. And I have for over 10 years now, been really in that exploration of yeah, what else is there? And I remember sitting down with Ted and having this like soliloquy of what I think is out there and, the divine and universe and all this stuff. And there's a greater power in love. And I spoke for probably 5 minutes. And then I said to Ted, what do you think? And then I think he gave a 4-worded sentence back and said everything that I'd said, but in a really succinct way. And I was like, oh, God damn it, that was really good. You really just summarized that in the
Good.
simplest
No.
way. I'm like, that's so refreshing.
Yeah.
And speaking on men, and also wanted to talk to you about the location change, then the moves
Yes.
that you've made. So
Yes.
you've moved from the north of Queensland in a country town, and if you can talk a little bit about your
Yeah.
new relationship and what you've chosen there and how that's come about, if whatever you'd like to share, but just moving now, because I see these areas of your life that you've changed over 5 years. And a core one is also that you have relocated your family to a new place to start a new chapter.
Yes. Great. This is my favorite topic. It brings me so much joy. So, um, we've spoken pretty heavily on the marriage separation, and definitely for anyone who needs more support in that, reach out, because I would love to be able to support you to do that in a really empowered way. And moving forward into the joy and the love that's now in my life, which is only available because I made those hard choices, this time, over 12 months ago. So it's really important to recognize that the place that I'm in right now is only because of that past version of me that chose to walk through that ring of fire and to choose something other than just my husband evaporating into thin air and hopefully just disappearing. Had to do those challenges. So the place that I'm in now is just recently in the last 2 weeks moved to the Gold Coast, which is it's where I've always a lot of the heart of the work that I do. Like I run retreats for women as well, and the retreats are all based around the Gold Coast. So I spend a lot of time here, and that took me away from home. So moving here just made sense for the work that I do. It's also I believe it's also like the entrepreneur center of at least Australia, and the energy here when I'm on the Gold Coast, I just feel like I drive here and I just get so much more work done. The energy that I'm in, my mindset's really clear. I'm just like way more focused here, which is great. So it really serves me in my business. And in all of that, it's such a hilarious story when I talk about how I moved here and I got my kids here. So on the 7th of January in 2025, I wrote down my New Year intentions, like what I want for this year, like getting clear on what I want, asking the universe, like how can the universe come through for me if it doesn't know what I want? So let me be clear, universe. These are my desires for the year. Perfect. I do it every year. It's beautiful. This was the 7th of January. And on those, one of those desires was to move to the Gold Coast. And in my mind, I thought maybe October. I was like, it was my big sort of fuck off dream. Like, oh, I don't know how the fuck that'll happen. It is a desire in my heart though, so let me voice it. And the place that I was living in at that time was the home that I'd moved into when I left my husband, and I'd just re-signed another 12-month lease. So I was in that beautiful home with my children for another 12 months. So that was going to take me to February 2026. 7 days later, I get a message or an email from the real estate saying the owners are under a lot of financial stress. They need to sell the house. Would you be willing to move? And I'm like, whoa, universe. I may not have been clear enough when I was thinking this would be happening in October. 7 days from when I asked for it, I get a random email saying that, like, not you have to move, but would you be willing to move? And I was like, thank you, universe. Okay, I see the golden gates opening up with everything I've asked for. I will, yes, I will walk through them. So we, replied to the real estate, told them that'd be great. That would actually work in well for me as well. Happy to do that. So there was no rush to move. It was like whenever you can would be great. So I just started looking for rentals and things like that, which was a really beautiful exit to have. There was no stress or rush or worry. It was because the rental space can be a little bit difficult sometimes. So I didn't have any stress and worry about that. I had all the time in the world to leave, and they were happy just whenever I could. So what it felt like was that I saw the opportunity, I saw the game that the universe was playing with me, and I could see, I could experience that with all the joy and fun that my guides, I feel like, were playing with me. And still, it was like the picture I have for it in my mind is these beautiful golden gates opening up for me to go to the Gold Coast. And I've got my heels dug in, and my guides are behind me and pushing me towards this gate. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go. But it was like, can I do it in my own time? Like, this feels really quick. And it's like, well, how else would you like to do it? Would you like to wait 10 months for your desires when we're offering to them you right now? Like, no, of course I don't. Like, I'm here for it. And I have so much evidence in my life for how loved, supported, cared for I always am when it comes to the divine and spirituality. I have so much evidence and proof that I am always taken care of, and that my life, I can't even dream it up. Like, I couldn't dream this big for myself. I think I've nailed the art. That sounds a little bit cocky. I'm definitely getting really good at surrendering and sprinkling in a little bit of inspired action in there to be able to receive fully from the universe, because I know that I actually can't dream big enough for what is available to me, and that other realm knows way more than I do about how big my life can actually be and how great it can actually be. So I just surrender to that and allow myself to receive all that love and care and support. And I feel like multiple times in my life I've just been scooped up by the universe and taken to where I need to be, and it just paths just clear and open up. And like, one of my favorite sayings is, with ease and grace. It feels like if I make the decision and I know, like, I have a knowing when it is the right path for me, I just simply have to say yes and then get out of the way. Put no obstacles in place and let the universe guide me and make that path clear. And I have so much evidence for that being really, really apparent in every stage of my life, which is beautiful. And I had all these people around me that were like, Shauna, like, I was like, well, I really want to move to the coast. Yeah. But what about my kids? Like, they were born in that town. They've just gone through a separation with their mum and dad in the last 12 months. Like, it's a big deal to move them from their school, their friends, and away from their dad. Like, he wasn't going to be moving. So this is a really big deal. And I don't do it lightly. And I'm in the business of healing people's childhood trauma. So I have a really great insight into just how easily it can be created. And I'm not out here trying to create any childhood trauma for my children. So I really wanted to make sure I was making the right choice for them. So I had these plans and ideas. I wanted to move to the coast, and the opportunity had been opened up. So I called a family meeting with my husband I was separated from. And I said, do you want to come out for dinner with me and the kids? And we were doing 50-50 care. And the kids were with me. And he's like, yeah, I'll come out for dinner. So we still had, we were working really hard on having a great relationship together for the kids, which was beautiful. And so we all went out for dinner, and I sat there, and it was almost like my body, I just channeled something that was not my own wisdom. And my intention for that dinner was to plant the seed of, this is what's happening. The rental is, we've got to move out. I'd really like to move to the coast. How does everyone else feel about that? Like, I was just going to open the floor up to get some gauge on where we're at here. I sat down at the dinner, and what came out of my mouth was, I'm moving to the Gold Coast, so that's going to mean that you kids are going to a different school, and the option is for the older one who no longer goes to school, I want you to come too, and your boyfriend can move with us. And I was like, whoa, Shauna, like that's really forceful. Like you haven't even told their dad. What the hell? Like that's rude. And that should have been a conversation with him. And everyone sat at that table and just went, okay. And I was like, holy shit. The way that I would have normally approached that situation with opening the floor up for an open discussion and like honestly having some integrity and speaking to their dad about it first, I would have usually done that. It just came out of my mouth and it came out with such certainty. There was no room for any of them to see it any other way. This is what was happening. And I just sat there going, what the hell just came out of my, I'm rolling with it. I'm rolling with it. This is great. I'm going to stand in this certainty. Thank you. And their dad was like, great. Well, it actually turns out that his job opportunities were closing off at the same time that I was moving and new ones opening up for him in Darwin that he wanted to move to. And so he was like, this could be really perfect timing. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. This is amazing. So we had really great conversations afterwards around how he has dedicated his life to being a dad and to being a husband. And it was time for him to choose himself. He has a lot of healing for his own journey. So we had a really great conversation where I got to say to him, it's my turn now. Like I've got the kids. You have supported me emotionally. No, not emotionally. He supported me financially while I went through my healing journey and building my business. Let me support you now. Like I've got these kids and I've got them sorted. They will be well cared for and loved. Go and find you. Like go on your own journey. I'm here for it. And everything here at home is going to be solid. Like know that. Like I know that you worry about the kids and your heart will miss them. And FaceTime is a wonderful thing. It will soothe the heart. So in the end, it's been a really beautiful journey of he has the opportunity where he now gets to go and find himself at 48 years old. He's finally getting an opportunity to find out who he is without that dad role. He's been a dad since he was 22. So it's all been so perfect and so laid out. And there is no way I could have dreamed that up. There is no way. Like I said, when I wanted to leave my marriage, the only option I could see was for him to die. And when I wanted to move to the Gold Coast, I couldn't even see any kind of realm of possibility for that. It was like, he will fight me every way on that. The kids won't want to move. Like they're going to want to stay with their friends. They're teenagers. Their friends are way more important than anything in their life right now. And yet it just all laid out on the table in the most perfect form. And I just stood back and went, okay, that landed. Let's take the next step.
Sounds like another permission slip, and it reinforces what you said at the start of the conversation about trusting the next step, not
Always.
just from the perspective of to not overwhelm us in personally of going, for
Mm.
example, I was just seeing myself in your story in a different way about my wedding. Like
Yes.
at the moment, we have over allocated, hoping that people won't come. A small group of people, just through falling pregnant or being overseas or something, won't be able to come. But everyone's saying yes, and it's overwhelming to try to navigate the bus.
Mm.
And we in the venue can't fit as many people as we've invited. No, I'm trying to figure it all out. But what you've reminded me again is it's all going to work out. I can't see what's actually unfolding here. What is simply the next step? Book my hair and makeup. I know
Yeah.
that it's another
Yeah.
way,
It's
and I'm sure
beautiful.
anyone who's listening is there's some area of your life right now, whether it is in your relationship or your family or your home, of, okay, this feels so big. I don't know how I'm going to manage this whole thing. There's a million conversations in my head that I need to have. But what Shauna is reminding us all of right now is what is simply the next step, because we can't foresee all the invisible moves that want to happen if we simply move forward and book the family meeting, go out for the dinner, ask our ex-partner and our family to sit. And I had this intention of having an open discussion and opening the floor so everyone felt really included in the, but what came through, because I'm so tapped in and I've done so much self-work, is that I couldn't stop the words falling out of my mouth. And it was probably the clarity and, like you said, the certainty and the conviction that everyone needed. And there's the safety in that, because it's coming from within you of like,
Yes.
guys, these are our next steps. Maybe underneath the surface, everyone was looking for maybe a bit of a shift and a change away from the town.
Yeah.
And now your ex-partner is having this whole new chapter open up that you could never have seen.
Yeah.
He
And I
gets
say,
to just go all in on him.
yeah. And I could never have planned that. Like, if I couldn't have planned that better for myself,
Oh,
there is no way. Like, honestly, get out of the universe's way. And I'm a big believer in surrender and receive. Like I'm a feminine empowerment coach, so I'm big on the feminine archetype of the surrender and receive. And there's also, let's not forget about the balance of that, which is actually some inspired action. So you can sit back and go, I'm going to surrender and receive. The universe is going to sort all this out for me. Yes, it will. But I had to make that phone call and say, hey, do you want to come out for dinner? I had to be the one to start that and spark that. Like when you get an intuitive hit to take some action, never, ever, ever ignore that. Because it's actually you playing your part in the grand plan of it all. And it's just that one next step that you need to know. I can't stress that enough. It has been the tool to get me out of many deep situations.
So I wanted to say earlier, and it's come back to me again now because you were talking about how when you were starting to coach and you're like, I could coach all night long. This is my jam. This is my thing. It's so easy. I'm like on point. I feel alive. And I had to reiterate back to you, you are so, and I know that you know this, but I have to reflect it back to you. I'm like, you are so where you're meant to be. Like this is so your thing, which is so cool. My favorite thing in the world is seeing someone in their zone. And when I was a little girl and I'd watch Oprah, I don't have any explanation for it, but I'd watch Oprah and there'd be like an American gymnastics team on there, these young girls doing amazing things. And I used to get so emotional and get shivers and tingles at women doing the thing that lights them up.
Yes.
Even watching The Voice and watching a man or a woman, but watching a woman stand up there and belt out a song and sing that she's in her thing that many talents and gifts, but seeing that she's in one of her talents or one of her gifts and she's just unleashing in it does something to my heart and my body. I want it for myself. I feel like I'm in my zone when I'm speaking. It gives me so much life. I can be so tired up to a workshop or a keynote, and then suddenly life fills my body, and I don't even know that I haven't slept yet, and I've got my period, and I didn't, on
Yes.
budget and all that kind of stuff. It goes away.
Yep.
And so, with all of these changes in your life, Shauna, underneath it all, what I'm seeing, and I know that you have a very deep awareness of this, is that you've chosen yourself. All of these tangible things have shifted outside of you, whether it's your career, whether it's your family dynamic, whether it's your relationship, whether it's the location that you live. Everything has shifted because Shauna has shifted within herself. What is something that you know about yourself that you didn't know prior to doing work on yourself? What's a realization that you have about the relationship that Shauna has with Shauna now?
Mm. So something I didn't realize was how how big a part my inner child was playing in my adult life. And realizing now that when there's anything for me to work through, a really easy way to do that is to go back and to work with her. So any unmet needs, any feeling unworthy or not good enough or scared or fearful or unloved, there's nothing outside of me that I need to go and get to soothe that. There's no person or partner or child that will ever fulfill that. It's me, and the way that I give it to myself is to visit my little girl through a meditation and give whatever it is that I'm feeling I'm lacking in life, and I give it to her. It's it's just a beautiful way. It's like a tool that I have. Like how do you describe self-love? Like I remember on that journey, I started, like I said, riddled with trauma in my 20s. No idea what self-love was. Heard people talk about it all the time, and it used to just make me cranky because I'm like, everyone talks about it. How the fuck do you do it? Like no one's actually telling me, here is a book. This is how you love yourself. Like someone give me some tangible things here. And when I realized how much I can actually do through working with the unmet needs of my inner child that lives inside me, nailed that self-love piece every time. And that's what makes it so easy to choose myself. And it is, you're right, the common thread through everything that I do is tuning into myself. What are my desires in this? What would I like? And honoring that, honoring myself and my desires, and doing it in a way with so much love and with sprinkling in a little bit of compassion and thought for other people. So I'm not just out there steamrolling people being like, see, motherfuckers, like I want to leave my marriage. I don't give a fuck what you want. It was really navigating that with some delicacy and compassion as well. But at the end of the day, nothing else matters other than choosing myself and what I know is for my highest timeline. So nothing, that is the utmost important for me in my journey. Like I know that my soul did not come back in this lifetime to be mediocre. It didn't come back to sit in a marriage that is not lighting me up or raising my vibration or helping anybody else in this world. My soul came back into this body at this lifetime to actually make some change and impact. And that doesn't have to be global. I'm okay with that just being in my community, in my circle of maybe throughout my lifetime helping 10,000 women. I'm okay with that level of impact. But it's not, I did not come back to sit in an unhappy marriage where I'm unfulfilled and unhappy. Like the aim of life and the whole game, the point of it is to be happy. So taking myself and putting myself in situations where I am happy. So hence the new relationship. I just see that as when him and I are together, there is a level of happiness and joy and love that exuded out of both of us. That vibration gets to expel and raise the collective. Like that is, if that's all we do in life is just love each other and we've made a difference, and that's enough. That's enough for a purpose to be back at this time.
What's one simple technique, question, something that a woman can do if she's listening to this right now, a step towards building a relationship with her inner child if she is feeling unworthy or her confidence has dropped? Maybe she has been made redundant from her job. She has a shitty boss and she's just feeling low and she knows that her confidence is taking a hit. What's something that she could do
Yeah.
to start that relationship or to start that practice?
Yeah, I love it. So there's a couple of things that I do, and they were where I started, and I still do them now. So they're for beginners, and they're for no matter how long you've been doing this. And one of them is mirror work. So I just literally sit in front of a mirror and look into my own eyes. And it can be a bit awkward and weird. And if you need something to focus on, just pick an eyeball and look at that. Actually get to know yourself. Look, because they say the eyes are the windows to your soul. So you get to actually connect in with yourself through that way. And a lot of times, because I've done it so many times now, my little girl will come up and it's really easy. Sometimes it's very easy for me to allocate what I'm feeling and what it is that she needs. And I just get to give her that. So it was literally this week, or last week, moving in with my new partner, there was a little bit of this thought coming up of like, oh my God, like he's going to fully see me now. Like he thinks I'm an absolute goddess. Like he sees me as an absolute goddess. And now we're living together. He's going to see me when I first wake up in the morning and I don't look like that. He's going to see me when I'm PMSing off my brain. Like I'm going to fall from the pedestal, you know? And I was like, that's such bullshit. Like he knows who I am. So I was doing the eye gazing and that all came up for me. And I was like, oh, my little girl. And for me, I just knew it was when I was 9. And I had a friendship group that moved away and just left me with no one. And I lost all my friends and they decided to go play with other people. And for me, that was the biggest thing that had ever happened in my life. And it really hurt. Like I saw them having sleepovers and I was no longer invited. And that was heartbreaking at 9. So it was that little girl thinking that she wasn't good enough and that she was going to get left behind in a relationship again. So I just got to stare in the mirror and just think about her, remember what I looked like at that age, and just giving that little girl so much love. Like I am a mother. I have mothered 3 9-year-olds, so I know how to do it. And even if you're not a mum, if you saw a 9-year-old little girl in the street alone and crying, what would you do to support her? What would you do to love on her and give her some care? That's all you have to do for yourself. Another one is through meditation. You can just sit either in the stillness or put a guided meditation on. For me, when I think about my little girl and I go and visit her, she's sitting on the back steps of my house that we lived in when I was in primary school, because I spent a lot of time there. I had all these older brothers that wanted to play cricket and pretend war games, and I was a girl and never allowed to play. And my sisters were all a lot older than me. So I spent a lot of time sitting on the back steps being really sad and cranky that my brothers wouldn't let me play cricket unless I was right in the outfield and just the one that basically fetched the ball and bring it back. And I was like, no, I want a bat. So my little girl's waiting there for me often when I'm got big feelings going on. And I even remember the dog that we had as a family back then, and he's there as well. And I just get to go and I sit next to her. And I'm the adult that she needed back then. Because in all of that, I have the most phenomenal mother. And she had 13 kids. Like, and also emotions weren't really well talked about back then. Like she did the very best and more than what she could have. And yet there was unmet needs. Like in all of us, no matter how great your childhood has been, there are things that went unmet for you. You get to be the adult that you needed back then. And you get to love yourself the way that you needed, because nobody knows that better than you. Nobody knows the internal world and the internal making of the woman that you are now. And that little girl is just sitting somewhere in your childhood and on your timeline somewhere waiting for you to visit her and give her everything that she needs, and just wait and watch for the magic to happen in your real-time life when you learn to love yourself through that lens. It's really easy to love a little child, so it's a really easy way to start that self-love process.
Shauna, thank you so much for coming on Into the Nothing.
My absolute delight. Thank you for having me. It's been so amazing.
Beautiful conversation. Gorgeous. So helpful. So many gold nuggets. Thank you to you for listening, of course. So appreciate you. Please share this with every woman that you know that would benefit from a chat like this. So helpful, so tangible, so real. And of course, we will see you in our next episode. Thanks so much for being here.